All right.
Good evening. Welcome to this meeting of the Environment and Services Committee, 27th of May, 2026. I'm only with you very briefly at the front. As the outgoing chair, it's falls upon me to do item 1, which is the election of the new chair. So members are asked to confirm the chairman for the year ahead for this committee. Do we have any nominations? Councillor Taylor.
Can I propose Councillor Hope, please?
You certainly can.
I'll second.
Thank you very much. Do we have any other late proposals for the chair? No. For completeness, there needs to be a vote. So all those in favour?
There you go, Ryan.
And with that is unanimous. So I'll hand over to you.
Thank you very much. Thanks for Bell. Thank you very much, everyone. Before I move on to item 2, can I take the opportunity to thank Councillor Bell for his, was it 1 year or 2 years in the chair? 2 years in the chair. As always, we've had some great debate, great conversation, come to some great resolutions. And hopefully we can continue that over another year working together through the Environment Services Committee in the Chamber. I'd also just like to also say thank you and our opportunity to say farewell to our assistant town clerk, Charmaine Denny, who we all know will be leaving us at the end of the month to go to Dorchester Town Council. So this will be her last ever meeting of Weymouth Town Council for a committee. So I'm sure you'll all join me in wishing her best wishes and good luck as she goes up north over the hill to Dorchester. That springs back. But no, thank you very much for everything you've done. We've had a great time working with you on this committee and as a whole council. So thank you very much, Charmaine. Okay, now move to item 2. The agenda book. Before I do, just for clarity of anyone watching at home or any members of the public, my name is Councillor Ryan Hope and I've just been appointed the chair of the Environment and Services Committee and I represent the West Ward here in Weymouth. So item 2, I now ask for nominations for Vice Chair of the Environment Services Committee. From the chair, I'd like to nominate Councillor Lee Harmsworth. Do I have a seconder, please? Very happy to second that.
Thank you, Councillor Bell. Is there any other nominations? No. If I can ask all those to show a vote in favour, all those for?
I'll vote for myself.
It's unanimous, so congratulations, Councillor Harmsworth. Would you like to come up here and join me as Vice Chair of the committee? Whilst Councillor Harmsworth moves across, we should take item 3, which is apologies for absence. We have one apology, that is Councillor David, sorry, 2 apologies. Thank you, Nikki. Swing things. We have Councillor David Harris, who will be substituted by Councillor Toft, and Councillor Dickens, who will be substituted by Councillor O'Leary. So welcome to you both this evening. We do need to vote on that, so I will propose Councillor Harmsworth for second. All those in favour? Thank you very much. Moving forward, item 4, declarations of interest. I've had no pre-notified declarations of interest. However, if any do occur during the meeting, members can declare them at the relevant point. Moving on to item 5, minutes of the last meeting. Members, especially those new to the committee, are reminded that you can still vote on the minutes, even though you wasn't present. But as we are voting to approve the minutes of the last meeting that are a true, accurate record. I will propose once again, and Councillor Harmsworth for second. All those in, sorry, Councillor.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Can I just ask, in the minutes, there are apologies from Councillor Taylor. Further down in the minutes, it mentions Councillor Jill Taylor. Since we have 2 Councillor Taylors, we know that it's Councillor Taylor on this committee, but just for the avoidance of doubt for those people who read it who don't know that, can we make sure we use the initial when we've got a surname that's, you know, there are 2 surnames?
Yeah, no, thank you very much,
Thank
councillor
you.
Weller, that's noted, and I'm sure that's done going forward. If there's no other comments, we now move to the vote. All those in favour, please. It's unanimous, thank you very much. We move on to item 6, which is councillor submitted, councillor questions. There was none pre-notified to the committee. We now move on to public questions, and before we move into this session, I'd just like to remind members of the public that you don't have the opportunity to debate or discuss or vote on the points that you do raise in your questions. You'll have the opportunity to read your question as submitted, and then an officer will respond. I will also be proposing at this point that after public questions, we will take the scrutiny request for allotments, seeing that we have a few allotment holders here this evening and a question from an allotment holder, so that they can stay and listen to the debate. And then feel free to leave on this very warm evening should they wish, but they're of course welcome to stay the rest of the meeting. Our first public question is from Honorary Alderman Christine James.
Do you want me to come up here or wherever? Sorry. I'll apologise for my attire first because it's so hot I wasn't going to put anything more formal on. So thank you for giving me the opportunity to come and raise this. I did ask the letter that I had sent to be given to all of you, so you should have seen a copy of it by now. And it concerns our MP. And firstly, I will say it wouldn't matter to me what party the MP was from, but I think the fact that this government has overturned the immunity prosecuting our veterans from Northern Ireland and Iraq, 3 of my brothers are Northern Ireland veterans, I think to then want to be here on Veterans Sunday and Remembrance Sunday and lay a wreath on behalf of veterans, he clearly has not read the room of his constituents or constituency, because this part of Dorset, and indeed all of Dorset, is made up of a vast amount of veterans, many of whom have been in contact with me and said they're not happy about it. I know that you do work with the Royal British Legion on who does what, but as far as I can understand, we do have the ability to say to him that we think it's best if he doesn't come. He may not be intending to come, I don't know. It's quite often when we had Richard Drax as our MP, he didn't always come to this service. He quite often went to Portland or somewhere else that was in the constituency that he was the MP for. So that's what I'm asking. I think it would be a huge insult and hypocritical to have somebody that has voted to overturn the immunity for veterans to then go ahead and try and prosecute them. I understand that some people think they obviously did something completely out of their remit when they were in conflict, but I defy anyone who hasn't actually been in conflict in the armed forces, and I haven't. But if it's a split-second decision, if you're given orders to do something and you do it, and then afterwards, years later, especially in Northern Ireland, you're told that, hang on a minute, that constitutes a murder or manslaughter, we're now going to pursue you and prosecute you, I think is shameful, especially when there are plenty of other things that this government should be doing. I won't mention some of the things that they should be pursuing, that they're not. That's not what I'm here for tonight. But I feel very strongly about this. And as you know, before Joanne, I was the Armed Forces champion. A lot to do with the veterans. I have 5 brothers, 4 of whom are veterans. My father, my grandfather, my nephews, my son-in-law, my ex-husband actually is a veteran. You have members of this council that are veterans. So I just think that it's within your power to say it wouldn't look good for him to be here laying a rig on Veterans Sunday or Remembrance Sunday in light of the way he's voted with his government. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorary Alderman Christine James. I'm now going to ask the Assistant Town Clerk, Charmaine Denny, to provide the response to the submitted question. Over to you.
Thank you. This is a matter for councillors to determine, so office can't make a decision about who gets invited to our civic ceremonies. So this would need to be via a councillor motion to a future meeting. This has been discussed with the council's Armed Forces champion, and your thoughts on the vision that she shares.
Am I allowed to say anything?
It's not normal practice, Councillor Dickinson, but since you are the Armed Forces champion and have been mentioned, I will give you the opportunity on this occasion.
That's very kind. Thank you very much. How can I say this? I think Weymouth Town Council should perhaps send a letter to Lloyd Hutton. In fact, I'm almost certain that they definitely should, because really we need to show our huge disappointment in the way he voted for our veterans to be prosecuted. That's aside. However, I do not agree with him being banned, as he rightly or wrongly is our elected MP. I would like to think he would realise that by attending any memorial service, it makes him look a complete and utter hypocrite. And people will see that. So by banning him, he doesn't have to face that, does he? That's my opinion. But I think Weymouth Town Council should send something.
And I'll just reply with it, Brian, just to say that whoever voted for him,
Yeah, not,
you can't tell me that all the people that voted for him agree with what he's done, so.
okay, thank you. I think just to pick up the points there on the discussion, I think the assistant town clerk hit the nail on the head. If any member does want to bring a motion, either to write a letter or to do as the Honourable Alderman Christine James has asked, then that is up to members. And I would recommend that anyone that feels this way contact a local councillor to ask them to make such a motion, but it's not in our gift to make that decision this evening. Thank you very much. Right, we shall move on to the next question that was pre-submitted and invite Penny Quilter to make her statement and question in relation to item 11 on our agenda this evening, which is the allotment scrutiny request.
Oh, sorry, thank you.
Thank you for giving me space again. So this relates to item 11, the allotments. So I'm speaking this evening as Weymouth Climate Hub's representative and the Growing Connections group in particular, that has got sort of lots of people who are growing across Weymouth in different ways. To say that the group supports measures that result in an improvement of Weymouth allotments for the benefit of its tenants and the wider community. We support the request for a scrutiny of the allotment service, and several people have expressed interest in contributing to a scrutiny process. This includes people that are involved in delivering education and health services. The current management of the allotments has focused on an assiduous interpretation of the terms and conditions. And whilst regulatory frameworks are necessary and honouring some traditions desirable, it's important to remind ourselves of the context of the times we're living through and the growing challenges posed by extremes of weather. It's therefore important to develop, know and clarify what objective strategy informs the regulations for allotments and other growing spaces. The Climate Change Committee, that's the government Climate Change Committee, published its fourth independent assessment of UK climate risk last week on May the 20th. It was entitled A Well-Adapted UK. I think that it kind of underscored the fact that we're not at all well adapted yet. The document contains evidence to support policy objectives that includes both increasing water conservation methods and our ability to grow more food locally. Weymouth is obviously not unique in facing challenges in delivering its allotment service. Changing demographics, diminishing public resources and difficult growing conditions face everybody. We have been in contact with Bristol Allotments Forum, and they've provided information about how communities there are going through a very similar process, although on a much larger scale. And there's an opportunity for us to learn from their experience. I also attended the recent Dorset Spring Show, and the National Farmers Union were facilitating a panel talk about food security and food resilience, specifically in Dorset. And the key messages coming from that talk were for education, communication and collaboration. So as allotmenteers, we face similar challenges to our local farmers, just on a different scale. So we're looking, maintaining soil health, adapting to the more extreme weather and having access to resources and the right skills.
30 seconds left.
Thank you. To conclude then, and being mindful of the parameters in which a town council is expected to operate, and assuming that scrutiny is forthcoming, can the process be inclusive of as many of us as possible, with consideration given to the development of a standalone, progressive food growing and allotments strategy? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Penny. Okay, I've got a response from the assistant town clerk, Charlene Denham, please.
It's just a short response to say that thank you for your statement, Penny. I'm sure the councillors will bear this in mind when making any decisions to be part of the working group as well.
Much. We do have two other members of the public present this evening, which I understand are both from allotments. Either of you want to speak to the item before we go into debate? No, you're just here to observe. Okay, thank you very much. So as notified then, members, we're going to move to item 11 next, as we have members of the public here to listen to this debate. So I'm going to ask the Assistant Town Clerk, Charmaine Denny, to introduce the item and then hand over to Councillor Weller, who made the request.
Thank you, Chair. Officers have received this scrutiny request from Councillor Weller. I'm sure that if there's any questions relating to this request, Councillor Weller should hopefully be able to answer those if I can't answer them myself. Members should note that CE scrutiny has recently been approved and this will need to be completed ahead of any other scrutinies commencing, as that's our policy is 2 months weekly at a time. As per the report, officers are recommending that this committee appoint 3 members to a task and finish group, the Amenities Manager and Green Spaces Manager, and an update report to the committee in September.
Thank you very much, Charmaine. Over to you, Councillor Weller.
Thank you very much. I'm not going to read out my scrutiny request because you've all got it in front of you and you don't need me to say it again. What I do want to say is, and I sent an email certainly to leaders of all groups, and I think, forgive me for not being able to remember, but I think I copied it to all members about scrutiny. And it was the fact that the word scrutiny sounds scary and it worries our officers who are very, very scrupulous and very hardworking and always, I think, do their very best. But when they get a scrutiny request, it looks as though we're challenging in a fairly aggressive way. So although I think that our whole allotment service does need very, very careful reviewing, that's exactly what I think this process should be, that it should be a review. More than that, I think I outlined what I think about review, and again, I'm not going to bore you here because this isn't quite the right place. I am concerned that I know we have a capacity issue, and that we've got scrutiny in line and that takes precedence. I would like to nevertheless say that I hope that a review of our allotment policy and procedures is not delayed any longer than we can possibly help. That we set up a task and finish group, even if that is with minimal officer involvement at this time. Members can do some fact finding and some research for themselves and give that information to officers so that the officers then have everything they need in front of them and we can then follow it up. So we're taking a bit of the load ourselves, and indeed I'm prepared to take that load on myself, not entirely, but to take a lion's share of that if that is how it pans out. I do think that this is an opportunity for us to provide a real exemplar on how good allotments should be run. We've got some incredibly knowledgeable allotment holders and incredibly knowledgeable residents within our town. Not to listen to them, I think, would be remiss. Not to ask their help would equally be remiss. So I would simply ask members that we accept that our allotment service requires review and that we initiate that. My other ideas on review and scrutiny I will bring through as a leader with other leaders in the future. But for the moment, I'd like this committee's support with reviewing our allotment service as soon as we're able to.
Okay, thank you very much, Councillor Weller. I forgot to mention at the beginning of the meeting how I propose to run meetings this year to avoid the complex and confusion of the proposals and amendments and then further amendments, is to give everyone in the room the opportunity to speak and then collectively try and work together to bring a proposal forward where I think that there is common ground. And work that way. However, I do understand sometimes there may be the need for amendments or different views and different votes, but the majority of things I'd like to think that we can have a roundtable discussion as a committee, and then following by a committee proposal where we can. So on that note, is there anyone that'd like to speak to item 11, as reported in the paper? Councillor Atkinson.
I'd like to make 2 points. I think most appropriate that the councillors serve on this committee are ones whose wards have many allotment holders. My first point. And the second point is, I think we should take into account what Penny Bull said tonight and what someone said by emails, and that is required by our scrutiny policy, talking to a wide range of people, drawing them together and building consensus. So I think we need to reassure our residents that that will be done.
Yeah, did I see Assistant Town Clerk to just one on that point?
Having spoken to the amenities manager and our green spaces manager, as part of any review within any of our services, so our resort management do the same as we consult with any stakeholders. So that could be allotment tenants, it could be other tenants. So it doesn't necessarily mean that they need to be part of that task and finish group. They could certainly be consulted with as part of that consultation process.
Thank you very much. Councillor O'Leary.
Yeah, so in regards to what you said about the running of meetings, it's my understanding that as per the new standing orders, actually debated to be separate between officer questions on an item and then go to debate. Is that correct?
Again, that would still be the case. We'll have the officer questions then debate.
That's fine. So are we in officer questions now and then we move on to debate if it is required, or are we in?
Yes.
Yep,
Answer
fine,
questions. Is there any more questions for officers? No, so then we will move into discussion around the table. Did you have a point to raise here, Councillor O'Leary, or was it just?
Being constitutionals.
I like it. Okay, right, there is no further questions or conversations we have.
Yes, there is.
Oh, sorry, Mr. Taylor.
I think it's a really good idea, and I'm not at all being awkward, but I probably am, because I'm in an awkward mood because it's hot. I'm just not totally clear on what the scope is. What's the scope and how is it measurable? Because we're looking at outcomes of improving relations between staff and plot holders. How do you measure that? How do you know whether you've actually
Well,
achieved what we're trying to do?
if I may, Chair,
Yeah, Councillor, well,
how we will know we've been successful will be that people don't come complaining anymore. That's to me is a very good measure. And we'll do that by collecting as many opinions and so on as is feasible to do. How long is a piece of string? How we would undertake it, one of the first things, as you know, is that we scope it. And I would suggest, and I don't want to labour this at this point, what I would suggest is that we've got a number of allotments, and there are uniform bits that touch in places, and there are bits that, but this place has this and this place has this. So what I would like to do is to sit down with all of them and, hate to say this word, do a sort of a spreadsheet to say, this does this and this does this, and where do we get those touching points? And where are the exceptions that are needed for particular areas? Are there exceptions? How many items on that list of things are universally applied across the board, and where there's that, and do it that way, and we've got that template. Then when we're on a routine regular review process, all that work has been done, and it's just a matter of how circumstances change. Is the situation different now, and we can adjust it. Because what we've done over years and years is, as people have come and made a suggestion or made a complaint, more particularly, we've jiggled at the edges, and we, as both you and Councillor Hope know, that's what we did last time. And we also know that when we do that, the ramifications are that everything, it's like a stack of dominoes. So that's what I would like us to do and to avoid. But the measure finally will be that our allotment holders, the general stakeholders, will be saying, well done, that's great. We can work with you on that. We're very happy. And we all gain, ultimately. Does that make sense?
Sorry. Through the
Councillor
chair,
Taylor, then councillor O'Leary.
is there a standard anywhere? Does the Allotments Association actually publish a standard of what the expectations are?
If I may answer, I'm currently collating a number of different standards and examples from which hopefully we can take the very best. Okay, and be the best is what I would hope that we would achieve.
Very much. Councillor Reid and then councillor Bev.
Thank you. I think councillor Bell was actually before me.
No, I just put my hand up. You can crack on.
I'm in favour of the scrutiny request. However, I do think it should be limited to elected councillors consulting with actual allotment holders, with the allotment holders hat on, as opposed to groups such as the Climate Hub, etc., being involved in it with that hat on. We have enough advisory committees and have enough working groups with unelected members on it already, and I think we have to maintain the fact that we are accountable for elected members who are accountable in that regard. So I'm in favour of scrutiny process. I'm in favour of that scrutiny task and finish group talking to allotment holders, but it has to be as allotment holders, in my opinion.
Okay, I think the officer recommendation does kind of stipulate who's on the scrutiny. The scrutiny working group have to decide who it feels best to talk to once that's appointed. It's right to exclude any groups at this point. Councillor Bear.
Just say, I think it's very, very sensible. I think it's a good way forward. Just coming back to the standards to work around, actually on our own website, there's a selection of fact sheets from the National Allotment Society covering water use, clearing overgrown vegetation, waste disposal, etc. So that already features on the website, and maybe that can be used as a basis for conversation. Are we achieving those things and meeting the standards? I think it's a very sensible proposal, which I'll be supporting.
Very much. Is there anybody else? If I may just add before we move to the recommendation, I note within the officer's recommendation that they're suggesting the amenities manager and green spaces managers in here. But I think given the statement earlier on from Penny Quilter, I actually feel that there is a huge environmental benefits to allotments. And I'm wondering whether or not we should be including within that working group our environmental officer. I don't know how members feel about that. Councillor Weller.
If I may, I think that's a very valid point. I'm concerned that we're then tying up time of 3 officers, and what I'd like to suggest is that we involve perhaps our green spaces officer and call in the other 2 as appropriate, so they're there and they can keep a sight on what we're doing as we go along and advise, rather than have them in the diaries having to attend every meeting because of capacity issues as anything else. So they're aware that the review is taking place. They can add their 2 pence when they're necessary, and we can go to them for advice when we feel we need it, or we feel lost or whatever, but not expect 3 officers to be in attendance at all time, because that's really quite a big request on our staff.
Just to come back up the scene. I feel that actually having the right people in the right room, having the right discussions in a scrutiny is really important.
I agree.
Because if the questions aren't asked, and if it's a matter of the fact that one officer wasn't there to ask that question, that would have those points or suggestions, then it gets missed. And if the next officer came in the next time, so I think having the right people in the room during that discussion, they don't have to attend everyone. They may sit there and look at the initial scoping one, and then come back to the next one with any information that the committee's asked for. But I think having them in the core membership, I think is very valuable. We should probably just ask from the assistant town clerk or the town clerk, was it the reason that you went for 2 officers? Was it capacity, and is there any issues if we did want to put a 3rd officer in there?
When talking to the wider team, it was obviously green spaces manager, it's their service area which they lead upon, but it could be the potential of if the review looked at other areas of the council, for example, climate emergency work, then the amenities manager would have oversight of that. But it could be, we could change your recommendation to a resolution to green spaces manager lead and supported by appropriate officers where necessary. There could be other officers working.
I think that would work and then cover both our points, so thanks to one. Okay, if there is no more points then, I feel we are at a point of a recommendation, so I don't know how the room feels, but I think what the assistant town clerk has just mentioned there pretty much hits the nail on the head. In relation to the officers that it's led, would you say by the amenities manager?
The green
The
space.
green team manager supported by the relevant officers. So we was to add that into the proposed officer recommendation, I think we'd have a solution then. Is anyone happy to propose them? Mr. Welland?
I'm happy to propose it. I'm gonna be a nuisance here. I'm sorry, and shout me down to say, for goodness sake, shut up. But I'd quite like the wording to be for members to agree a service review request. And then on, so that we get away from, I'm very mindful of not sounding desperately aggressive and challenging of our staff, to use that word review rather than scrutiny. The town clerk may be unhappy with that, and I'm happy to leave it as it is.
Just say the information I've just had said to me that the request and the process you used is a scrutiny request. I mean, if you wanted a service review, then a motion to full council.
Okay, that's fine.
I think for formality,
Absolutely
what
fine.
you've asked for.
In that case, I will
They would check the same
go with
thing.
the wording that's there. Town clerk, happy with that.
And I think we will, I'm sure the town clerk will ensure officers that, you know, this is a more of a service review and
It's
an eyeglass over the operation.
yeah. We're not out to beat anybody with stick.
So you're happy to propose?
Yes,
That's
please.
again. So I have a seconder, please. Councillor Toft. We now have a proposer and seconder. Does anyone wish to speak to the proposal? We move to the vote then. All those in favour, please. That is carried. Thank you very much. Thank you, members of the public. If you want to leave, we do understand it's very warm this evening. You may have some watering to do on your allotments. Right. I will just state that I've been advised as well that I believe some of the members here are the public are interested in the Tumbledown item. We will be going to confidential session when we come to Tumbledown and then resume into a public session. So it is last on our item agenda because of that. And members of the public will have to be asked to leave for that confidential. And then you can come back in. All the recording is available on our website, so it's up to you. We move forward to item 9 on our agenda this evening, which is the future of toilet refurbishment, and will be introduced by Will Holmes.
Will.
Thank you, Chair. This report sets out a clear plan for refurbishing our remaining public toilets blocks over the coming years. It follows on from the successful upgrades at Cove Street and Overcombe and responds to members' requests for a clear priority list so that improvements can be planned properly through the budget process. We have also had a quantity surveyor produce a report which has been completed and passed to officers, which supports this approach and confirms the condition of the sites and the need for a phased refurbishment programme. All sites will be brought up to the same higher standard, including more modern, durable facilities and card payment doors where appropriate to help support running costs. Members are asked to agree the priority order for delivery, which will guide when each site is refurbished, subject to funding being approved each year by full council. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Will. Picking up on the first point, can I ask members if there are any technical questions from the reports? No technical questions, so it won't be asked how many gallons of water or. So we move then forward to discussion around the table, please. Anyone want to kick us off? Thanks, the weather.
This might be regarded as a dark question or maybe a contentious question. Maiden Street, sorry, Will. Maiden Street has always been a problem. It's a really, really old building. And the plumbing is antiquated to say the least. Or it's constantly needing servicing, it's constantly needing repair, and it's not ideal. It's also been a site of vandalism, wrong use and everything else. And I'd just like to know, and I probably should have asked this as a technical question, I'm just wondering whether we have ever considered finding a different location for public conveniences in that location, and not, one that would be fit for purpose for the 21st century, instead of trying to make a building that is clearly not fit for purpose. We're going to spend a small fortune on it, trying to make it fit for purpose. And we all, I hate to say, we probably will still be spending an awful lot of money repairing it and dealing with the vandalism and rough sleepers and all the other things. We do need a public convenience in that location. I absolutely do think that. I'm just wondering whether at some point we say, right, actually, that doesn't fit the bill. We should be looking for an alternative. I'm sorry. I only thought of this afternoon. But it just suddenly occurred to me that I've spent an awful lot of time looking at the Main Street toilet.
I'm going to ask the assistant town clerk to respond, but I pretty much guarantee the issues, we don't have any assets.
We don't have any assets in that area or any land where we could build anything in that area, and it hasn't been a request that's come forward. So we could potentially, the whole building's leased, so we'd have to, we couldn't dispose of the building. So then we'd have to look at capital to buy it if we wanted to somewhere else or rent somewhere else. And that hasn't been something that's come to committee before, so we haven't explored that any further. And I don't think the vandalism is one of our highest footfall toilets, isn't it? But the vandalism, well, AFB isn't as bad as it used to be prior to Ravenford Council taking on the facilities.
Well, did you want to add anything else in there?
Yeah, just a quick one on that one. As part of the refurbishment, and you are completely right about the drainage and stuff, that would be part of the complete refurbishment. We would be looking at, we need to get planning permission, which our property manager has already started that process, because it's quite long. But we would be looking at the drainage system as well, because it's very old and we need to get that up to a century.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Councillor Dickinson.
I would like to know about state of repair of pier bandstand. I presume they're the ones that go down, are they, downstairs? Because if I remember rightly, the first report when I was at first council, they said they were in a very sad state of repair. Has that changed or? No, yes, no.
So the underground ones at Pier Bandstand, we lease.
They're licensed out to an operator that uses them for storage following a fire a significant amount of years ago.
Because what are the pier, when it says pier bandstand then, what are those now then?
So we let those from the operator who owns the freehold for the pier bandstand, Olivetto and the amusement arcade. So in exchange for them having storage underneath the old underground toilets, in exchange we have use of the toilets to the left. So just as you opposite ones of terrace.
Alright, thank you.
Councillor O'Leary.
Coming back to my earlier point, we just had technical questions, then I went from debate and then went back to technical questions. We deliberately changed standing orders in order to try and get around that and separate the two items. So can I just remind you?
I think we're being lenient. See, I do understand your point, Councillor O'Leary, but this is the first meeting.
I know,
since
I find being
then,
that, but when we get to a contentious issue such as
Yeah.
another item, it don't emphasize right into those.
We will work on improving that, won't we, committee, but through the process of this evening and into the year. Your point as well, Councillor.
And I'm happy to propose. Recommendation.
Is there any other comments? No, so we're going to move to Councillor O'Leary there. You indicated you're happy to propose. Can you confirm exactly what you're proposing?
I propose a recommendation to refurbish the listed toilets containing those.
As printed in the pages. Do I have a seconder for that? Don't know, I've got three hands at once, was it? We've got this thing. Councillor Bell, I'll get there. So Councillor O'Leary, proposing, Councillor Bell seconding outstanding orders. We now have an item on the table. Is there any comments on substantive? No, we will move to a vote then. All those in favour as the recommendation is printed. That is carried. Thank you very much. Move on to item 10 on the agenda. Sorry, we're not 10 anymore because we shifted around. So we're moving on to item 9, which is our community development strategy. And Rachel James will introduce this item. And welcome, Rachel. This is your first item I think you're proposing.
Yeah.
Presented to council. So you see, we're an easy bunch this evening. It's too warm to be anything but.
That's good. I'll try and come on a warm night next time. All right, thank you, everybody. So obviously you will have already received the full document and there's a background summary in this agenda as well. So I'm just going to say a little bit while I'm here. As you know, I've been in post since December. I've spoken to you when I first came into post, and that has fed into this community development strategy. The main aim of the community development strategy is to strengthen connection across Weymouth. Strong communities aren't built simply by services or infrastructure, but through relationships, belonging, and people feeling like they matter. One of the planned activities that I'm particularly passionate about in the community development strategy is the Know Your Neighbour campaign. The idea came out of a conversation I had with one of the councillors. And it captures the true spirit of community development. So community is more than just living in the same place. It's about feeling part of something, feeling recognised when you walk down the street, feeling supported, feeling that there are people around you who care. So we know that many residents, particularly older and more vulnerable people, experience loneliness and isolation. And for some, especially those with limited mobility or poor health, their home can become an isolating place where they feel disconnected from the outside world. Sometimes small gestures, like a neighbour checking in, offering help, sharing conversation, or simply waving and saying hello, can make a profound difference to someone's wellbeing and sense of belonging. The Know Your Neighbour campaign is designed to encourage a culture of connection. It's all about inspiring residents to become part of the street or neighbourhood community that supports one another and takes pride in where they live. I'm particularly excited about the idea of mapping streets that sign up to the campaign and having that on our communications, allowing people to physically see our community in Weymouth gradually connecting, spreading across the town and encouraging others to become involved. It's not about grand gestures or unrealistic promises. It's about creating an ethos of community across the town, encouraging kindness, neighbourliness, participation in ways that are practical, sustainable and meaningful. By sharing positive stories from residents involved in the campaign, we can help build momentum and remind people of the power of the community connection. The strategy is not just about working from the grassroots up, though. It's obviously about building partnerships and working with the existing great work that's already happening in our community. I'm already working with Tumbledown, and I'm excited to be launching the first of our community garden tidy ups, which is bringing Tumbledown volunteers and bus shelter residents together to do a garden tidy ups for vulnerable people working at vulnerable residents in the community. I'm looking forward to working with Catherine on projects which will engage schools, sustainable travel and community events. I've also begun to build relationships with the voluntary community sector, the primary care network, GP surgeries and schools, and I'm looking forward to taking these forwards. Another key element and something that came up in almost all my meetings with councillors is the need to support young people. I've taken on the lead of the Youth Council from Charmaine, and we'll be working on projects to help young people feel heard, represented, safe and proud in the town that they live in. By strengthening the Youth Council and improving youth provision or creating more opportunities for participation and volunteering, we want young people to feel that they have a genuine voice and future within Weymouth. I'm currently in discussion with the 3 academies in Weymouth, plus the college, with regards to linking up their student councils with our youth council, making it more representative of the youth across the town and more inclusive. I'm on the board of the Equality, Diversity and Inclusion board at DC, also part of Thriving Communities panel and head up the Access Forum with David Harris and Sarah Pannant. So building an inclusive community is another key aspect of the strategy. So the strategy is about creating awareness where people feel connected, valued and supported throughout every stage of their lives. The Tamworth communities are resilient, inclusive and proud of who they are, and I'm excited to be given the opportunity to work on this. Any questions?
Thank you very much, Rachel. Great, I think, introduction and summary of the report there, and I know a lot of the members in the chamber are happy that you took the time to speak to us all when you first started there, and have taken a lot of our points and put it into this strategy. So I think it's a great reflection there. Going to kick off with those technical questions on the document first of all, and I'm actually going to start us off if I may. And my question here is, we've got a lot of how you're going to see success. What I don't see is those key performance indicators. Have we got baselines on all of these projects at the moment where we're saying our success is to see an increase in this or decrease in this? Have we got those baseline figures in place so we can actually measure the success of what we're doing here? And I know it's hard sometimes because social value is very hard to measure, and with the community side of things, there's a lot of social benefit. But some of them there would be ways that we can, either through partners or data that we've already got, be able to set some baselines and see hopefully positive trends in the right direction, depending on those targets over the years, so that we can see that we are doing the right thing and saying what we say we're going to do in a policy. I don't want this to be another policy, and Charmaine will know this after working with me so many years, it sits on a shelf. We don't want to work like that. So I'm just wondering, have you yet got those baseline data, or will that be the next stage from this and then come back to this committee with those KPIs in 6 months, 12 months time to see where the improvements are happening?
There's various different elements of the community development strategy, and some of them will be easier to measure than others, obviously. So with reconnecting people with their current community will be obviously quite difficult to measure. However, for example, one of the things with the Know Your Neighbour campaign is to encourage people to set up WhatsApp groups. So what we can do is to ask people, do they already have a neighbourhood WhatsApp group? And if they do, then report that to us straight out, and then we can see, because I know from my discussion with the councillor, for example, it came about because he said that they already do have that, and I know that there are existing streets that are quite well connected already, so that could be something we use as a baseline, and then from there we're obviously then going to be whoever downloads the pack, will be communicating with them to see whether they've set up a group and how their community is, their street or neighbourhood is connecting. So that's one way of measuring that. In terms of supporting older people to thrive, we are obviously part of a panel, the Thriving Communities panel, which will be supporting organisations that are specifically working with older people. So we can work with the primary care network as well as Refresh, that have the leaflet that we're giving out to find out, for example, the Refresh leaflet, how many leaflets are going out already. We are planning on trying to communicate with the people that are receiving those leaflets and find out, have they actually engaged with any of the things that are on the leaflets yet? And then obviously in maybe a year's time, go back to those same addresses that we're delivering and actually do a survey. Have you gone to any of these things that are on the leaflet? How has that improved your scale of your happiness, or whether you're isolated? Looking at young people, specifically with our youth council at the moment, we've had people that have been sitting on the youth council for 4 years, so they're obviously feeling empowered and enjoying it, otherwise they probably would have left. But 8 of them are actually leaving because they're going on to university, so we're going to be left with a real skeleton, and this is the opportunity then to be able to then start kind of afresh, and with those people get a baseline. We're also going to be doing a youth survey with schools. So as we do our community survey, I've also spoken to the 3 academies, and they're on an agreement to do a survey with all of the students of the academy in terms of their sort of well-being, happiness, how their sense of pride of where they live. and any of the main issues that they feel affecting young people in the town. And that will be a survey that we do each year, at the same time as we put our community survey out. So those, I guess, and in terms of the building an inclusive community, we've got our access forum. We're currently looking at doing an accessibility audit across Weymouth, and that will obviously have a baseline to start with, and then from that, we will build on looking at helping people to put simple things in place. An example could be the Encompass, what's it called, something or other diets. It's basically making where restaurants or cafes can have a diet that is appropriate for people that can't swallow solid foods. So we'll go around and that'll be part of the criteria. And so then we can say, right, okay, X number of restaurants have that currently. In a year's time, how many have got it?
I think, so just to summarise it, so I think you have got some potential projects to measure outcome, that we can see the progress. Just by coincidence, I've touched on basically nature-based health and social prescribing. Now, as they work closely with Tumble Farm to expand opportunities for schools and alternative provision. So that would be one that we can measure, because we can say how many schools are we currently working with? Number 12 months time, has that increased? So I would like to see that if we do adopt this evening, the next stage would be to draw up those definitive KPIs so that we can see the impact it's having, whether that by via a number value, as we just given that instance there, or a project outcome, as you've mentioned there as well. My second point on the technical question is, do we feel the lifespan of the policy is right, given that social sort of impact changes drastically overnight? So I'd like to have the mechanism that we can bring this back and amend it at any point. If we have another conflict somewhere and the price of fuel goes up even more, or anything like that has a real impact on our community, we need to have written into this recommendation tonight, I feel, the opportunity to bring it back as major impacts happen in our community that may impact the plan. And again, it just keeps it live and keeps it fresh. Moving on to Councillor O'Leary.
Yes, thank you very much. You did it when you first were in post, when you met with elected members, and you've done it this evening with a few of us giving us these leaflets. But on the list of collaborations, didn't actually mention working alongside ward members. So could I ask how you intend to keep ward members engaged and involved, and also taking some strain off you? And I know I mentioned it before, I don't think it's just your job or the job of officers to carry out a community strategy. I think we're there as well, and that we will have a bigger part to play in community engagement as representatives of communities in regard to our ward. So how do you intend to keep elected members engaged as it goes along? Sorry.
Well, I mean, obviously, I'm really happy to come and present as we're going along with whatever I'm doing, so I'm not entirely sure what I understand the question. How am I going to keep you, the councillors, informed?
Well, if you're, for instance, if you were doing something in Littlemore, for instance,
yes.
I would like to think that as a ward member, I would be contacted and be involved and kept in the loop with that, you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah, well, obviously, yeah, I mean,
fine,
yeah, sorry,
you're doing it, you are doing it, I mean,
yes,
it's the legal,
sorry,
so you've
yeah.
already, but in regards to.
Just I know exactly where you're coming from,
Yes.
Councillor O'Leary, about making sure officers keep you involved in your patch.
Yeah.
I think the town clerk will probably like to respond.
Yes, so there will be regular reports and updates coming forward to this committee. And also where there are those that local working, linking in with the officer member protocol and how we all work together, you will be kept up to date if things are going on in your area, and any events, etc., we'll make sure are in the weekly update for councillors.
Thank you.
Any more on those technical points on the actual policy? No, we're going to move into discussion point around the table. Councillor Bell.
Thank you for the report. It's really thorough. It outlines collaboration. It outlines bringing in the full age range of our residents. Absolutely superb. It may have been me you were referencing with the WhatsApp group. Yeah, my street has a very, very active WhatsApp group. Many messages a day. But just to outline the importance of that, it's become a support mechanism for the residents on my street. I didn't start it. There was two new residents on the street came up with it, shared the idea. It's built up over time and it's developed into regular meetings. Has to be said in the pub, where everyone meets up and everyone knows each other, and the difference it's made to the feeling, and that's a hard thing to measure. But the feeling on my street has been quite literally immeasurable. Particularly for my children, they've had help with various things with people with different skill sets on the street that you wouldn't know were there beforehand. And some of the older residents have had support when it's been cold or hot or water boilers have stopped working. So I'm so excited to see that go out. It seems like a really simple thing. It's just that connecting the streets or connecting two streets will make a huge difference to people. So I'm delighted that is in there. Really thorough report, excellent presentation, really excited to see where this leads.
Thanks for that.
Yes, agree with all of that. It's very, very useful. We don't have a WhatsApp group. We have a Facebook page, but I'm now going to go back onto the Facebook and say, who's going to set up a WhatsApp? But it is jolly useful. My road is predominantly an old road. We do have a few children. I think we have 3 in the road, but we have an awful lot of very elderly people. And it's jolly useful when the ambulances come backwards and forwards, which they do with alarming regularity, to be able to say, does anybody know what's wrong with X or Y, and pop round and see their wife, their husbands, to make sure that they're okay. Great idea, so well done. More power to your elbow.
I just wanted to respond to Louis, because I didn't really understand the question you're asking me. And as obviously, because I'm new to the town council, I'm not entirely sure still how much interaction I can have with the councillors. But I would like to think that I see you all as resources that can support me and what I'm doing, which is what you are already doing with the leaflet. And so I wouldn't necessarily just reach out to you to let you know what was going on in your area and that I happen to be doing something. I would also reach out to you if it was appropriate to say, have you got any other ideas about how this might work better within your own ward? So it's just I would need guidance on that boundary.
Yep.
Don't think councillor earlier open streams are actually living in the community hall with Livermore.
Yes.
Any other comments on that? I mean, just on the wider context, I really like that it really does dovetail into our corporate strategy here at Town Council. I think some of the projects dovetail lovely into Dorset Council strategy, which means we'll be able to get support and resource and possible funding from them also. I was looking at priority area 2, supporting older people drive. Proposed activities age-friendly Weymouth, where we're already looking at age-friendly Dorset was put through Dorset Council. So there's going to be so much, I think, between our strategies, Dorset strategies, and when we are all aligned, it makes everything much easier to achieve. So I think, again, kudos to that. Going to move into an area of recommendations now. So the recommendations in the paper, with me, even on one screen is the problem. Having the eyes in the back of my head, so the other problem.
Committee agree the community development strategy for 2026 and 2030.
Okay, I think just picking up on this, that we would like to see updates to this report. Again, just defined KPIs come back at least once a year. So that we can just monitor the progress and again, keep an eye on those areas. So I'd like to build that into the recommendation. And picking up on councillor O'Leary's point, I think we do just need to clarify the involvement of members. I think you mentioned that was missing from.
Yes, on it might have no chairman. Yeah, on the list of collaborations, it lists a number of partners now really good, but I think to have ward members. And also what I would add as well, there are 2 elected members in Weymouth that aren't on the town council, and I would also like those 2 to be probably kept in the loop as well, because they are just as much part of the community, just because they're not having to on this council. I know how it feels being in that position, if you know what I mean, as well.
So yeah, just include elected members, bracket town council, Dorset Council on records. So we build that into the recommendation. Of course, this will come forward to full council for formal adoption by the council. So we can, I think we're happy. It doesn't, has it been adopted yet? So we're happy that with those minor amendments that you're happy to vote on that with this, yeah?
So just to read out the officer recommendation following those amends, the committee agreed community development strategy 2026-2030. Updates including defined KPIs, come back ENS annually, include Weymouth Town Council ward members and Dorset councillors with any updates.
I'm happy.
Happy enough to propose?
I'm always happy enough.
Okay, Councillor Leary's proposing. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Bell? We now have the substantive on the table. Is there any comments on that? We'll go to the vote then. All those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you very much. And thank you, Rachel. And we haven't got anything else. So don't feel you have to stay here. Or do the evening rains out in the garden or.
I'll go cook dinner.
Go and cook dinner.
Thank you.
We move forward there to the next item on the agenda, which is the Climate and Ecological Emergency CEE 6-month review and update CEE plan. And Catherine Scott will introduce that.
Thank you. So this report summarises 3 appendices. The first is an updated CEE plan, which reflects progress on actions to date. The report highlights several progress areas around schools, waste management, climate change, resilience and communications. The second appendix is a carbon footprint report for the council's operations in 2024-25. This is a follow-on from the baseline exercise, which was done by the Carbon Trust for the year 2019. The council's carbon footprint has fallen by 122 tonnes of CO2 equivalent, since 2019. A simplified explanation, that's partly due to an increased EV fleet, more efficient green spaces work planning, solar panel installations, building upgrades and continued decarbonisation of the UK electricity grid. There are further CO2 reductions expected in future, and another assessment is planned for the financial year 2027-28. The third appendix is an environmental performance report for Weymouth Town Council activities, including data on electric and water use, which goes back several years. It also contains waste and solar energy data and updates on progress against the single-use plastic policy and measures taken to protect ocean habitats. The aim here is to understand trends and if we're improving or where and how we can do that. I aim to give a similar update in January, and the recommendation is for members to note the update reports and approve the latest version of the CEE plan.
Thank you very much, Catherine, and apologies, members, I forgot to say that I was moving item 12 up the list again to let some of the officers go on earlier. They've been here all day, very warm, so I should have said that before introducing the item. So we are on item 12 on our agendas. Moving on then to the technical questions. Has anyone got any technical questions? Thanks, Lorna.
It just under financial contribution, it says that the bid are contributing to something else. Am I on the right thing here?
Are you on about CSATs?
I'm on, yes, I've gone onto the wrong thing. Sorry, I was listening to you and moving my screen, so I'll come back on that later.
I'll take full responsibility because I didn't say I was moving.
No, it's my fault entirely. I should have been concentrating more carefully.
Okay. So we are, let's say, item 12.
Yes, yes.
Appendix F is the item. Anyone got any questions? If not, I can ask them. We've got you scheduled in at the moment for every 6 months. Do we think 6 months is the right frequency to actually get any measurable updates, or do we feel that it's just coming back to committee too often?
So there will be a document coming forward within the next month, 6 weeks to finance and governance and then on to full council called planning and purpose, which will put all of our planning documentations, our service plan in line with our budget setting, in line with our HR mechanisms, and that includes an annual reflection on service plans and a 6-monthly check-in on all of our service plans and a complete review and overhaul of the entire service planning process. So that's what we're working on at the moment as a draft, so that what we're doing is in line with that, because hopefully councillors will approve that way of moving forward.
Look forward to that. I think some of them you can get measurements in 6 months, but we'll discuss that item when we get to that. I think.
There'll be an update on every single KPI, but it gives councillors that opportunity has been alluded to already this evening, to have those regular check-ins and that regular update from officers on what's happening with all of our strategies.
Good answers that one then.
What she said.
Yeah. Okay, anyone else, any other technical questions? If not, we're open up to general discussion and debate. Has any comments on general discussion and debate? Thanks to Toft.
I'm invested in this because it's come out of CEE and Catherine is there. And I have to thank her for doing an extraordinary piece of work, because there's an awful lot of information here if you have the time and the interest to go into it. And it's showing that we've made progress towards decarbonisation, which is important. And it's something that we can keep building on, and we've identified where there are gaps, and I think it's really useful. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? I think I'll add as well, just on through the introduction, I think we obviously touched on a lot of the reductions on the impact. I think everyone that you said there is not just an impact on the environment reduction, the impact there, but I think everything there had a cost saving to us. When we talked about energy, reducing energy consumption, reducing fuel usage, as well as being environmentally friendly and considering our environment and benefit there. I think it also demonstrates that we're doing the right thing as well when it comes to the budget and reducing spend where the council doesn't need to. So you know, that's the big thing with the environmental stuff. A lot of time it goes hand in hand with cost benefit. Have to invest to save sometimes, but you're saving the environment and you're saving the budget. Anyone else? If not, we are not asked to make any formal vote or recommendations here. It's just to say that we've noted the report and the update. Yeah, we let the committee note the CE update, performance information and carbon footprint report, and approve the latest version of the CE action plan. Do we all note that and agree?
If we're approving it, then we need to verbally approve of the action plan.
I kind of thought the same, Charmaine, but
I think no.
I was going off of the.
Has there been amendments to the action plan?
Yes, it's been updated to reflect like progress against actions.
I think then we will take a vote. And I'm going to presume that Councillor Toft is going to be happy to propose chair of the CE. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Taylor. We now have the item on the table. Is there any comments on the substantive? No. We will then. Was that hand or brush?
Oh, no, sorry. Just flicking me out the eyes.
We then go to the vote then, please. All those in favour? So 7-4, those against? 3 against. And 1. Check the abstentions. Councillors right, so. Thank you very much, and thank you, Catherine, and again. Feel free to go on. Right, going back now somewhat to our community, sorry, CSAS, the item that the weather was alluding to. We do have confidential appendix within this. Members are reminded that if we do want to go into any detail in that confidential appendix, we will have to go into confidential session and exclude members of the public and the live stream. So we are now item 10 in our agenda packs, CSAS, and I'm going to hand over to Charmaine Denny, the Assistant Town Clerk, to introduce the item.
Thank you, Chair. This report asks members to consider continuing Weymouth Town Council support for the Community Safety Accreditation Scheme known as CSAS for a further 3 years at a cost of £25,000 per year. The scheme provides a real physical community safety presence across Weymouth and helps address issues such as antisocial behaviour, antisocial drinking, begging, dog control and other CSBO related matters. Current agreement expired in 2025 and Dorset Council have advised that without continued support from this council, the future of the scheme may be at risk. Officers have also discussed patrol timings with Dorset Council and it has been agreed that during some holidays and major events, also known as red days, patrols will operate later into the evening until 10 PM to improve visibility during busy periods. £25,000 funding is already included within the council's base budget. Members are therefore being asked to approve the recommendation to continue funding the CSAS scheme for the next 3 years for a new service level agreement.
Thank you very much, Charmaine. I will ask, does anyone want to go into the confidential session at this point?
I have a technical question, but I don't think it's confidential.
Okay, Councillor Weller.
Going back to where I was incorrectly, have we allowed in our future budgeting, in our future thoughts for when we don't have a police crime commissioner to contribute to this, that we might need to find that shortfall?
At the moment, obviously, as part of the budget working group, it could be something that they review and take into consideration in the future. But as it stands, the SLA would only be seeking for Dorset Council would only be seeking 25,000 from us as per the SLA. So at the moment we haven't looked to supplement that.
No, but we're aware that it might come up. That's fine. Thank you very much, Charmaine.
Anyone else from technical points? If not, we shall open up to round table discussion. Any points you would like to raise? Thanks to Taylor. Did you have any comments on this? I know it used to come to brief at Dorset.
Not particularly. It's the only thing I would say is that the SBO's, CSAS officers are very much valued by Dorset Council. And also the police, they work very closely with them. Just in response to your question about the Police and Crime Commissioner, I did this when it was under my portfolio. I asked officers to do a piece of work with the Police and Crime Commissioner to work out what funding is sitting where that funding is likely to go, because he actually funds an awful lot of stuff in Dorset. So that was one of the priorities that I wanted done as a document. So that is in process at the moment. And as a council, we're staying as close as we can to him to get whatever funding we can when he goes.
Thank you very much.
So, yeah.
Councillor Bell, I think it's under your portfolio to Dorset now. Any comments on this?
It is. I haven't had any meetings on this particular topic yet, on the very long line of meetings, but I know they're valued by the community. I've had emails as a ward councillor with people recognising work that's been done by them, in fact calling for further patrols if anything. So they are valued. I think it's a relatively small amount given the impact they have. So I'm happy to probably should be. I'm happy to support this one.
Okay. Anybody else? No, okay, so we are asked then to agree on the 3 years SLA with the committing a budget of 25,000 per annum to the CSAS scheme. Do I have a proposer? Councillor Taylor. And is that a seconder? Councillor O'Leary. This is standing on the table. Is there any comments on that? No, we shall move forward to the vote then. All those in favour, please. Very much. That is carried. Okay. So now I'm gonna have a little flurry of what we call PIDs, and the benefit of the public viewing and in the rooms. Our PIDs are project initiation documents. Effectively, they are a mechanism for a councillor to put forward a project for the council to discuss and then move forward through the committee process should we agree. So our first one to look at is over 2 pages. It's Ruddypole Park, netball courts. I'm going to ask the assistant town clerk, Charmaine Denny, to introduce and hand over to Councillor Bell, who submitted the document.
Officers have received this bid from Councillor Bell, and I'm sure that Councillor Bell will be able to give a little bit more detail and answer any questions you may have. But we're recommending as officers that feasibility, demand and funding report be brought back for a future meeting.
Thank you very much, Councillor Bell.
Thank you. This one didn't come from me, really. This was community led. So this was a member of my ward that approached me with a very good idea to make use of an underutilised space. That resident had already done a lot of measurements and worked out that the space was suitable. You can see that within the PID document. I've done that quickly on Google Maps just to show the space is sufficient. Our amenities manager, Ben, was brought in on the initial email thread from a member of the public. So officers have had an awareness of at least a discussion taking place on this topic. At the moment, netball courts are actually quite a hot topic in the town, mostly due to the ones at Budmouth coming to the end of their use for a variety of reasons around building work, condition, and that is presenting a bit of a problem for netball players in the town. There are bigger conversations about greater numbers of courts potentially at a school site around the town. It's not something I've been massively involved with at that level, but I'm aware that's an ongoing conversation. However, this space would supply somewhere for local men, women, girls and boys to play the sport of netball. It's worth noting that male participation in netball is also rocketing around the country. We have the Commonwealth Games coming up, where we traditionally see a spike in the Commonwealth sports around the time of the tournament, and we hope to get more people involved in being active, supporting their well-being, and our public parks should be the place for that. At this stage, the PID is only asking officers to go away and look at feasibility, demand, and potential funding routes. As part of my early sort of investigations into this alongside the resident that initially approached me, we have spoken to Netball England, I think is the correct title, but the governing body of Netball in England, we spoke to them, and some other experts locally. There may be, this will be what the officers look into, there may be funding channels that are open to the council to access to move this forward. One of the questions that came up in early conversations was, we've got a basketball court. And very quickly the answer came back, it's different equipment, it's different space, it's different lines, it's a different sport. We can't just bundle them all into one. So hence the need for a specific netball space. So that's where it came from. It came from a member of the public. It's a brilliant idea to look into, see if we can support this sport, which is going through a bit of a period of change in our town due to facilities elsewhere coming to the end of life. So yeah, hopefully people view it positively.
Thank you very much. Councillor Law, was you waving at me from the back for that?
When it comes to members speaking, could I speak as I'm not a member of the committee?
Of course, yeah, I can invite you at that point. So we are now opening up to the technical questions from the committee. Is there any technical questions? Not sure how that works on PIDs because we haven't yet done that detail, but I will stick to the rules that Councillor O'Leary has laid out for me this evening.
Full council read them.
Okay, if not, we're going to move into, sorry, Councillor Atkinson.
I hope this falls within what Councillor O'Leary considers to be correct, but I am in favour of the bid, but could it also be extended to consider the merits of a 5 or a 6-side football pitch? Not as a replacement, but not an alternative, but as an addition to a netball court. This form of football is played by 4 times as many people with netball in the country. And that a space there had been suggested to me in the past by an officer as being a possible place for a 5 or 6 5-a-side or 6-a-side football pitch. And obviously Radipole Gardens has got to serve the local community, and that does include Melcombe Regis, which severely lacks recreational facilities. So I would welcome the opportunity to look for exploring Radipole Park Gardens offering 5 and 6-side football as well as netball.
Okay, it would drastically change the PID. What's happening to councillor Bell for us?
Well, can I respond?
Yeah, of course you may.
Yeah, I understand that overall, you know, people involved in the sport is higher with football, but equally so are the facilities available across the town. So for example, the Football Foundation funding and also Dorset Council at Redlands has already put in the Lioness pitch and other facilities up there. We've got other areas of the town that have those facilities. Radipole Park in an informal football way has a goal on the field and also has the we've got basketball nets up high and then the sort of cage goals underneath. So there are spaces for a kick around, and there really are families having a kick around, including my own, in those spaces. So that would be my balancing point. That I completely understand we've got greater numbers playing football, but equally we've got greater facilities for football. So to my mind, this is a different offering for a different, well, potentially overlapping group of people. So that would be my counter to that.
So I take that you're not happy for the moment. Okay. Moving out of it, unless there's anything else technical on the submitted document, move then into general discussions, and I will invite councillor Norton first to speak before the committee.
Thank you very much, committee. I'll just stand up for a minute. Thank you. Apologies for late arrival. I was doing something else, but I managed to get here for this. When Radipole Park was developed, there was an intention that that space would be developed. Unfortunately, the money ran out and that space is a horrible gravelly patch at the moment, and I really support the idea that it is brought into use. What I'd like to ask is that when the PID moves forward, that the option for some multi-sport activity on that, what will be a fenced-in tarmac area, I believe, is also looked at, and I'm going to declare an interest here as the chair of the Weymouth Pickleball Club. We are looking for, and I have talked previously to Ben Heath about additional pickleball courts outdoors. At the moment, there are 2 at Radipole, but you wouldn't know they were there because there are tennis nets and everybody thinks it's a tennis court, but there are court lines there. And it would be nice to have some additional one. We run events for children. It's really good, accessible sport for young children.
Councillor Northern, I will just say that we are here not talking about the art land, we're talking about the concept of a netball court PID. And therefore, I think the same sort of ruling there applies to the advice just given to councillor Atkinson.
So my question is, can the committee consider expanding it to a multi-use area rather than a single-use area? Thank you.
Thank you much, councillor Northern. Moving on, councillor O'Leary.
Chair, we have a PID that's been written and submitted. Please can we move to the vote and move on from here and get it explored, please? Because I could say, look, can we look at having a Putton Green? Can we look at having a fishing tackle range area? Look, there's plenty of things we can have a go at, so can you please move to them?
Yeah, before we do, councillor Miller.
Very much the same sentiment. This PID is for netball. It covers a huge age range, both men and women, and it's extremely popular. If they are losing facilities, there's quite a big league locally now, isn't there? So they clearly will need that. And I'm totally in support. So if councillor O'Leary is suggesting we go to a vote and proposing, I'm very happy to second.
Okay, we'll go to a vote.
Sorry, Chairman, that proposal, I think it should come.
Yeah.
Well, whoever.
Yeah, so I'm going to move forward with the recommendation that we move this to a vote. So I'm going to ask for a recommendation, which I'm presuming will be councillor Bell as a submitter. Is there a seconder, please? Councillor Dickinson. We now have the substantive. Any questions, any comments? Then we will move to the vote. All those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you very much. We move to our second bid of the evening, item 14, and I'm going to, this is for a new dog area on the marsh. We then, I will ask councillor, almost, maybe that's where you're leaving. But no, I will ask the assistant town clerk, Charmaine Denny, to introduce, and councillor Berman's asked me to say a few words on his behalf.
So as the chair has mentioned, we have received this bid from councillor Furman. And councillor Hope will be able to answer any questions that you may have. And as per the report, officers are recommending that costing options which will be brought back to a future meeting regarding a new dog area on the marsh.
Right, so councillor Furman asked me to just to say, pretty much in line with what councillor Bell said, this has come forward from the community. Both of us have attended Friends of the Marsh and Western Community Group meetings that support this, as well as a wider dog social networking area. I don't know if I have to declare an interest actually as a dog owner. I know Dorset Council I have to when we talk about dog things. So I will declare an opportunity interest as a dog owner. Councillor Bell, would you like to do the same?
I will need to do the same, yeah.
Anyone else got a dog? So yes, so to get that over with, but no, I think the concept is to basically have a secure fenced area with some potential agility training that people can train their dogs off lead and dogs that aren't very sociable to have a safe space to also exercise. So that's what he's asking us to potentially go away and look at and come back with the costings exactly the same. In the same concept, we move forward to technical questions. I'm expecting councillor Weller.
Sorry, can you just clarify, will dogs off leads or exercise be confined to this area, or this is an area where it be used specifically for the training and so on, and for nervous dogs? Dogs will still have free range of whole of the marsh. Thank you, that's all I.
Not the whole of the marsh, just for clarity, because I get shouted at by my residents when people walking their dogs in the sport matches.
Well,
Within 5 metres.
I'm very well aware of the problems there, and I
Yeah.
was just wondering whether that was going to make patrolling that problem area easier, but that's fine, thank you.
Councillor Dickinson.
How would that be, please? I mean, how can you keep Fido in a space? You know, I mean, I'm a bit worried about that. If there's children playing football, and as you've just said, a dog that perhaps doesn't behave like it should, what's to stop him going to let across the football?
That's exactly what councillor Firm's asked for, as a internal. Whereas normally children are fenced into a park, he's now asking for a fenced area for dogs. So dogs to be trained in as needs to be. So yeah, he's just asking for it. Any other points on technical detail? Councillor Soft.
I'm just curious, has it been decided this sort of area? Has councillor Furman got an area in mind? It's not going to take away any amenity from anybody else.
Again, that would be part of the product initiation document, but he has recommended an area that would not impact any sports pitches or anything else.
And also worth noting that there's agreements in place, so we won't be able to remove the sport pitches anyway, because we've got agreements in place like over the sports clubs.
On technical, councillor Atkinson.
Just a small point, I hope that officers will make good sure that this area does not then pose a risk to children from Toxocara pallus, which can cause visceral and ocular larval migrants. So the NHS recommending that no dogs should be allowed to defecate where children play or sandpits or playgrounds. So can we make sure that there's no chance of children contacting into this area, particularly if there's areas, sand or whatever, for the dogs in that area?
At this moment, it's just to approve the pit, and anything detail like that can be discussed at the next stages.
Well, there'll be a public liability if somebody gets limed as a result of this measure, so I think we should take it into account, but I'm not trying to stop.
Okay, we will discuss it, obviously consider that and how that can be mitigated during the proposal later. Anyone else on the technical?
Yeah, I mean, I've no idea what he was talking about there, I can admit that, bit crude there. Who's cleaning up after these dogs, you know, because fundamentally, they're not going to know that they're not supposed to go in that area, who would be cleaning it up?
I think we're getting too much into the detail. Any detail like that would be considered in the next stage as part of the planning process. This is just to agree that we can live it initially at this project.
Fair enough.
Okay. Looked at technical, any general comments? If not, do I have a proposal to move the bid forward? I'm happy to impart the thanks to Furman. Do I have a seconder? Thanks to Taylor. Moving forward now, this is standing on the table. Any debate on that item? No. Go to the vote. All those in favour? Thank you very much. Moving on to our last bid this evening, again, will be introduced by Charmaine, the Assistant Town Clerk, and then over to Councillor Aaron Toft, who has submitted.
So firstly, thank you to Councillor Toff for submitting this bid request for welcome signage to the town. I'm sure Helen will be Councillor Toff will be able to answer any questions you may have. And as per the report, we recommend that a cost option will be brought back to the future meeting.
Councillor Toft.
Thank you. I brought this up because it's long been something that has bothered me, that when you arrive in our biggest car park, Swanley, and people get out and go and use the toilets, there's no information there to say, welcome to Weymouth, we're a blue flag town, or a green flag town. There's nothing about our parks, there's nothing about where you can hire a bike, there's nothing about taking your litter home. There's nothing about you can refill your water bottle along the seafront and various other places around the town. And we're just expecting people to just discover it for themselves and possibly overlook some really interesting parts of Weymouth. And as I said in my pitch, you know, we have Bradford Park that's 5 minutes away from Swanley, but there's nothing there. There's no signage to the park. There's nothing to tell you. There's, you know, you don't have to spend the day on the beach. You can go and sit in the park, you know. And I think it's something that's been missing for a while. We have a lot of out-of-date signage, as we all know, which is a particular bugbear of Councillor Weller's and mine, and we are going to get out a ladder and some high-vis jackets and take some of them down because nobody else is. However, I think it would be really nice to have some signage on all of the places where people park, that welcome them, that tell them what they can do, to tell them what our expectations of them are, and visitors that would like them to take their rubbish home, not leave their rubbish on the bin, on the beach, and just things like that. I mean, it's pretty self-evident, I think, what I'm asking for, and I think it's been missing, and I think it would be a welcome addition to the town.
Yeah, thank you very much. So, again, I'm mindful of asking this, but Councillor is asking 2 technical questions, but not too technical. This is a outline document, and the finer details will be brought later on. Any technical questions? Not what colour it is.
It's a question for Councillor Toft. I fully agree with the principle of it, but I was told by Matthew Piles that he had already, and sorry I missed the presentation, but I was doing nature business. But I was told that Matthew Piles was already looking into welcoming Weymouth signs on several occasions.
He was also going to take down the out-of-date signs, and that hasn't happened either. If we wait for all this to happen, then we'll, you know, 3 or 4 years down the line, we won't have anything. I'm sure as part of the PID process, our officers can speak to Dorset officers just to make sure they're not about to roll out something that they've neglected to tell us about, which would be not a surprise, really. But yes.
Just a point of clarity, I think there are probably 2 conflicting things with what actually Piles has previously spoken to us about is on that coming down the Ridgeway and coming down Overmoying, coming from Chickerell. Well, welcome to Weymouth. Effectively the old pineapples, or the ones that say home of the Olympics, or the Lions, those welcome to Weymouth. I think what was Councillor Toft is more interested in is that you've arrived in Weymouth, here's some useful information. Yes, this case of whether it's just said Ponset, I'm here and Matt is there. But yes, any other questions then? Councillor Atkinson.
Only that there was some concern expressed about this in the bid directors meeting this morning about the risk of duplication and overlap with its efforts. So, please can we make sure that as a bid developer that it does have close contact with bid directors to make sure with the executive to make sure there isn't duplication and overlap.
I'm sure that's been captioned as part of the recommendation we looked at, the same as Dorset, to check there's no duplication, or if there is some level of duplication, at least continuity, that we're using the same branding. So
And the bid may have some money to contribute, which.
any other technical questions? If not, we're moving to general comments, debate. No raised hands, so I'm going to move the proposer, being councillor Toft. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Weller was quick there. Now have a substantive on the table. Approve this, next move to the next stage. Is there any comments? No, move to the vote. All those in favour? Unanimous, thank you very much. We're now going to move on to item 16, which is the Greenhill Beach Water Action Working Group. This is to this committee following a recommendation of the previous meeting, put forward by councillor Weller. And I'm going to ask our town clerk, Jane Biscuit, to introduce the report, please.
Thank you, Chair. I won't go into too much detail. Members will have seen the short report on the agenda and the accompanying draft terms of reference, which were attached as Appendix L. As the Chair has stated at the Environment and Services meeting on the 22nd of April, councillors agreed to set up a Greenhill Beach Attraction Working Group to look at possible water-based attractions in the footprint of the previous drafts. And the role of this group was agreed to cover the securing of funds for professional research and bringing the report back to this committee in the new year to allow decision and procurement to take place before the 2027 season. So the recommendation is that the membership of the working group is determined in the terms of reference that are agreed. Thank you, Chair.
Very much. Members are clear then, we are looking at item 16, Appendix L for the terms of reference, which we're asking to approve. We'll make a comment on and then to appoint a membership of the group. Going to move forward first of all on technical questions on that term of reference. Is there any? No, not seeing anything on that. Moving forward then to general discussion and debate. Mr. Bell.
Sorry, I was just a bit slow, and it was actually councillor Taylor that pointed this out to me. I was trying to find the right point. 2A on the terms of reference. Generate ideas on what could fill the raft footprint for the 42 days in summer. That terminology would sound like it limits us to precisely where the raft is placed. I don't think that's what we meant at the time.
I can only, Chair, if I can only go by the recommendation that was agreed at ENS previously, which was focused purely on that, on the raft footprint.
I think the meaning at the time was the beach area adjacent to it as well. Sorry, Chair, go through it. I think the meaning at the time was the beach area as well as the actual siting.
So we would need to, are we saying that we would need to change 2A as part of the recommendations, councillor Weller?
My recollection is that what we were trying to achieve was to investigate and generate ideas for something that could make a replacement offer for what the rafts were doing. So because the feeling of the meeting was that sadly we can't provide a raft, we are looking for alternatives. And they may or may not be on that site. It may be that that's not an appropriate site, but we've got a terrific idea that could be provided elsewhere. So I don't think we should be restricting ourselves. But as that statement would do, we generate ideas on what could replace the offer of something.
Councillor Weller, I think the town clerk.
I think that was the
so we
feeling
can
of the
amend that.
meeting.
I think we get the gist from both yourself and councillor Bell. We just need to change that to be a little bit more open, not stipulate the footprint, and not speculate a number of days. So we can do that.
What I'll do is look at the recommendation, move some text across from resolution to the.
Well, whilst the assistant town clerk's doing that, we will continue. Is there any other points on these terms of reference?
No.
No, okay. We'll just hold fire whilst the assistant town clerk. So I have to tell them when they're done, because they're gonna count the seats behind me. I was thinking that councillor Weller, but I don't know whether anyone will be appointed until they know the terms of reference are decided. But if people are happy still to appoint, I'm happy to move on to the appointments in the committee wish. So can we move, whilst this is being amended, we do move forward to those appointments and we're happy. So we are looking for members of the working group. Do I have any offers?
There's not.
Okay. Just double checking. So just a question of clarity, because I see a hand at the back there. Does the membership have to be of this committee? Okay, so I saw a hand for councillor Nickinson.
I'm proposing councillor Atkinson.
Well, should we ask people that are interested to put their hand up, and then we just do it at the end?
Fine.
Were you happy?
Yeah.
Councillor Atkinson's happy, councillor Northam is happy. That's three. Yeah, and councillor Nickinson, Atkinson, and Northam. Are we happy with 3 members, or anyone else?
Sorry, I suspect that John Laurel might have wanted to serve our conversation.
Chairman, sorry, Mayor.
Of course, councillor.
In the past, what we've done is basically we've agreed some here and then put an email out to any additional members that wish to join. So perhaps we do that to allow wider members of the council.
Yeah, sure, we can do that. So the committee is happy to appoint the 3 designated this evening, but the invitation will go out to other members, and in particular capturing the point of councillor Atkinson, the board members. And then we have the terms of reference there. So are we happy to take everything as one? Or do you want to take these as 2 separate items?
I'm sorry, councillor Hope. Could somebody read that to me, because I can't read it from here.
That 2A is replaced with generated ideas on what could be introduced at Greenhill Beach. And we're taking out for the board.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, you're happy with that, councillor Weller? You happy to propose them? Councillor Weller will propose both A and B. Yes?
Yes.
Yeah. Do I have a second of A and B? Councillor Nickinson. Now have the substantive on the table. Is there any comments? No, we're going to go to a vote. All those in favour? 2, 3, 6, 7, 8, 9. Those against? And abstentions. 1. Thank you very much. We're now going to take item 18 next, which is our information items. Is there any, we've had no pre-notified questions on the information items. They are a matter of information and are in the report. So members are asked just to note those. And a reminder as always, if there are any questions on those, do submit them in as councillor questions. We're now going to move forward to item 19. Before I hand over to the town clerk, I will say that we will be going, as mentioned earlier, into confidential sessions, because this will be a very short presentation, first of all, from the town clerk involving staffing matters and therefore confidential. And then we will go have that confidential session, an opportunity to discuss, and then go back into public sessions with a wider debate on the tumble down item. So would you like to do the introduction now, town clerk?
I have a public introduction.
Yeah. I'll hand over to you then, item 19, and the introduction of the tumble down working group.
Thank you, Chair. So I'm presenting the report tonight as Ben Heath, Communities Manager, is unable to attend the footy. Although this is a report from the Tumbledown Working Group, I am happy to provide an officer introduction. Over the last 5 years, Tumbledown has developed to provide benefit to Weymouth, and this has covered multiple strands, including providing community growth spaces, establishing an inclusive safe space for adults and children with additional needs, establishing a centre for food security education, and creating an exemplar for sustainable food growth. Facilitating volunteers working with adults and children with additional needs, improving access and providing permissive paths for local people to enjoy the site, enhancing wildlife and biodiversity, preparing the site and the nursery to transfer to Tumbledown by 2028, saving money and increasing site usage, and reducing costs to Weymouth Town Council by using our greener risings and wood chip to grow food, educate people, and provide fulfilling activities for our residents. This has been successful, but the hoped for income in the original overly ambitious business plan has not been fully realised. The principal costs of Tumbledown have been 1.4 staff and a small operating budget. Income has been supplemented by external grants where possible. Expecting Tumbledown, as is noted in the report, expecting Tumbledown to be completely financially self-funding is not a reasonable expectation and not one we place on any other asset of the council, including our parks, gardens, beach and allotments. On the 17th of September 2025, the Environment and Services Committee set up a working group to explore the future operational direction of Tumbledown and bring forward the report for you tonight. Tumbledown Working Group met for the first time in November 2025 and then again in December, February and March. At the initial meeting, the group received an overall update of what had taken place at Tumbledown over the last 2 years, what new infrastructure had been built, and the expansion of operational activities that now takes place. Some of these were not possible before the new facilities, including Kestrel Barn and toilets, were in place. The additional activities have enabled income to increase above £20,000 in 25-26, with further increases likely in 26-27. During the 4 meetings that have taken place, the working group members have explored a wide range of topics, and this report brings forward this information, including the view that the majority of the working group that success should be judged by social value rather than just financial value. For you tonight is an opportunity to consider whether an alternative approach is desirable and who is best placed to maximise the outputs and outcomes of the site. The report describes, and I just got to find the second page of my report there, I'm ever so sorry. The report describes the current site, the facilities and the activities carried out there, and presents a number of options for consideration by yourselves tonight. This report comes at an exciting time for the council, where we are looking at how we ensure we have the right people in the right place, doing the right things to meet our identified and evolving priorities. This will be the subject of a significant report to the HR committee on the 17th of June. I'm happy to provide a confidential update to the committee on staffing impacts at this meeting to aid a holistic approach to decision making. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Tony Clark. I think following that introduction, and I think given this confidentiality around the HR decisions, I fully believe that the committee needs to understand that or making any decision through the recommendations. So I will be proposing that we go into confidential sessions to allow Town Clerk to update us on the HR proposals. Do need a seconder for that, so O'Leary. All those in favour, show of hands. Thank you very much. I do have something to read out, don't I, for exclusion of pressing. No,
You don't have to read it.
I have to say that. Okay,
We use a slightly different act to those of the council.
that's fine. So we are going to confidential, just to say that we will be coming back into public. To discuss Tumbledown. So you're welcome to leave the room and we can call you back in as we go back into public, or it will be available to on the recording.
Chair,